In these uncertain economic times, it's easy to be worried about protecting your wealth, your hard-earned savings, and your family's financial future. Plunging interest rates, the devaluating dollar, and political unrest constantly threaten what you have worked hard to earn and all that you own. That's why now it's more important than ever to protect your assets and have the money you need to make your dreams come true. Welcome to the Global Wealth Fortress Report with successful global entrepreneur and wealth preservation expert Joel Nagel. Joel's helped thousands of people just like you protect what you have so that you can make even more and make your every dream come true. So, sit back and enjoy Joel Nagel's offshore expert advice on how you can live the good life at a great price, where the sun never sets on your financial fortress.
Hello. This is Carter Clues. Welcome to Joel Nagel's Global Wealth Fortress Report. I want to get right into it today because, as Shakespeare wrote with the witches at the cauldron, double toil and trouble. And that's where we are today, which demands asset protection. And we've got America's #1 asset protection attorney who is at Ground Zero in Austria. Joel, what is going on?
Hey, Carter, it's good to be with you. You're right. It's almost chaos. I mean, what's happening to the world, there's never been a better, illustration of why you need asset protection, why you need second passport, why you need, a residency somewhere else. All of these things are just being driven home so much. I mean, my heart goes out to the millions and millions of people who are arriving here, at our local train station over the weekend. It was just swamped with, Ukrainian or, with the refugees. And quite honestly, most of them have nothing. They're dependent on charity to give them food and blankets and what have you. It's naive to think that it's happened many places around the world. And it's naive to think that it can't happen if you're American or Canadian or, German or whatever. The reality is it honestly could happen to any of us. So, the old adage, an ounce of prevention, that's kind of where we are right now. I spoke to a friend of mine just yesterday, and he's getting swamped. He's one of the local agents that does work with us with some of the various Caribbean passport programs. And I said, are you getting a lot of applications from Ukraine right now? And he said, yeah, we're getting a fair amount, but we're getting even more from Russia.
Wow.
So you have Russians that are, trying to get out of Dodge and all of a sudden are realizing, hey, wait a minute, maybe Putin is a dictator. Maybe he is, he can. I saw in the news yesterday, somebody said something negative about him and they were immediately arrested. So, you want to have your plan B in place. I know you like to talk about that topic generically. I talk about it from the standpoint of asset protection, but it's across the board right now. It's if you haven't done any planning in this area and you have resources, even if war doesn't come, look what's happening to our dollar. Look what's happening with inflation. The official numbers are like 8% now, the second highest since Jimmy Carter, and the real numbers are even higher. So
much higher.
If you're not thinking about that, protecting yourself from, your pay is not going up that quickly. So, if your boss decides to give you 3 or 4 or 5% pay increase this year, you'll think that's wonderful, but you'll be further behind worse. So you really have to take matters in your own hands with these things. That's what the Global Wealth Fortress Report is really all about.
It's really what it's all about. And let's be clear, these refugees you're seeing are not like the illegal immigrants coming across the southern U.S. border. These are
well-educated people. They're doctors and lawyers and accountants.
Exactly. That was the point I wanted to make.
The whole system has been upended. And, if you're a lawyer in Ukraine, what does that qualify you to do here in Austria? Nothing. Maybe be a cab driver or work as a dishwasher. So, you have to, when the times are good and you have a little bit of extra money, that's the time to be thinking about how to position your wealth in different countries and different currencies, in different asset classes, whether it's real estate or gold or Bitcoin, you name it. People sometimes say, oh, you're the guy who loves gold. No, I'm not the guy who loves gold. I'm just the guy telling you, think about what alternatives are. The alternatives all pretty much work. You just have to decide which one's good for you.
Yeah, and we need to bring this home to people. I have to be honest with you. I have absolutely no faith left in what's going to happen to my money in the United States. You talk about Putin, and the fact is, Putin hasn't taken anybody's money. He hasn't frozen anybody's assets. It's all the other countries who are bankrupting Putin's people. And the fact of the matter is, it can happen here. If you cross the US government, I'm just going to say it, and anybody who doubts it, think about Canada just a few weeks ago. If you cross the US government and do something they don't like, they can do everything that's being done to these Ukrainians now, and you lose everything. Freeze your assets, just obliterate whatever you have. And so, Joel, that more and more, I swear to God, more and more, I look forward to this talk with you, because I've got to find somewhere to put my assets where the United States government can't come in, because, okay, one day Carter wakes up and says, I really don't believe in this COVID thing. I don't think it was all the government said. Bang. Biden already has said, if you criticize the science, we can prosecute you under the Patriot Act. That's freezing assets, Joel.
Yeah, and you would think that that's what we have a court system for, but sadly the courts haven't upheld our First Amendment right, which is free speech. I mean, look, you have the right to say anything you want. You can't go scream fire in a crowded theater, because you could hurt somebody with that kind of speech. But
that's right.
You suggesting that the elections were stolen, or you suggesting that COVID's a fraud, whatever, whether people agree with you or not, it's beside the point. I mean, one of the most famous judges from the early part of the 20th century had a great name. His name was Judge Learned Hand. Yes. And one of Judge Learned Hand's, comments was, the way to combat speech you don't like isn't to stifle it. It's more free speech. So if somebody doesn't like what you're saying, tell you why it's wrong. Don't tell you that you can't say it. And now we have a government that is basically saying, if you say the wrong things and we don't like them, again, it's turned on its head. You're guilty until proven innocent. Your assets can literally be frozen without any kind of judicial oversight, what have you. So of course, you have all these things happening in the world. We've been talking about Russia and Ukraine, but you're absolutely right. If you cross the U.S., they're going to call you a domestic terrorist. They're going to freeze your assets. Your name's going to go out through the banking channels, through SWIFT, and all of a sudden you're going to find out, boom, I can't move money. I can't do anything. So, in your case, you have your little bungalow on the beach in Honduras. You want to have a little account with an extra few bucks in it, and that's asset protection for you. And the point I like to make is asset protection is different for everyone, depending on your circumstance, what your goals and objectives are, and it shouldn't be painful. I'm not trying to make people, strain or stretch. A lot of it is just the normal investment that you're going to do anyways. But how do you hold that investment? What should the legal structure be? Maybe it should be in a different name than yours. So if your assets get frozen, those assets don't get frozen, right? Those are the kinds of things that you want to think about. Are you a doctor who delivers premature babies for a living? Well, your risk of litigation is higher than the average person. So you take each person's risk profile. When we start working with the client, that's one of the very first things we do. We try to assess their risk profile to know what those risks are. Are they, legal risks, currency risks, citizenship risks? What are the risks? And, I'll tell you just a quick story. In the very early days of my practice, this is going back, I've been at this 33 years, and I want to say it's at least 30 years ago. And we were still at that time on pretty friendly terms with Venezuela. And I had literally people came to us. They wanted to invest in the U.S. They wanted to get an E2 or an EB5 visa, which are visas for investors. You had to invest at least $1 million. And while I was working with them on the process, literally over a few month period was when, the Venezuelan economy fell apart and,
Right.
the hyperinflation started, and they went from having a net worth of, $3-4 million to like $200,000. And a few months later, $2,000.
Wow.
That's how quickly their wealth was reduced, and they could no longer apply for that US program because they didn't have the wealth to do it. So, that's why you want to try to think ahead. You're interested in, we tell people all the time about programs that are very easy. Like, for example, in Portugal, you can apply for Portuguese residence. They have an investor program. And if you go through the investor program, you only have to spend 1 week there per year to maintain your status. And after 5 years, you can apply for citizenship. So, it's not that onerous. And then you'd say, yeah, but I have to invest in Portugal. Yeah, you do. But, now you're going to have access to maybe another property, maybe another currency, a place with nice weather. Like, what's not to like about that? And it's kind of like double dipping. You're getting something that you could enjoy, that can get you a return on investment and qualifies you for residency and eventual citizenship. So, I think that's why a lot of people go into programs like that, because they are so easy to access. Most people think, oh, it's got to be so hard. I'll do it. I'll think about it next year. I'll think about it the year after, whenever. No, the time is now.
The time is now. And look, folks, there's where you go. There's where you go, right? NagelLaw.com. What we're talking about is very serious and very, very real. It's palpable. It's palpable. And that's where to go with your questions. And please don't wait. Joel, let me do a hypothetical here, okay? What would you have said? Now, I've got to say this. Putin has made it clear since 2014 that he was not going to tolerate what the United States was doing in the Ukraine. And there was no doubt sooner or later he was going to make a move. He waited 8 years. What would you have told? You see, you were in that position, and I can tell you feel it deeply, seeing these refugees coming. As you pointed out, some of these were doctors, lawyers. What would you have told them, let's say a year ago, had they come to you when it was obvious to a lot of us Putin was not going to tolerate what was going on there much longer?
Well, it sort of smacks of Monday morning quarterbacking, talking about,
I know.
but I would say a lot of the same things I tell everybody that comes to me. Number one, you should maintain a portion of your wealth outside of the currency that you actually earn. So this isn't about anybody's currency. It's not about the dollar. It's not about the euro. I'm not saying whose currency is better. I'm just saying if I earn dollars, then tomorrow I can go out and earn more dollars. And those dollars might go up in value. They might go down in value, but I can earn more because I live in the US and I have a job or law practice that generates dollars for me. So if I'm trying to protect against that dollar going down in value, then I need to diversify away from the dollar. So, some clients, maybe it's 5%, 10%, 20%. The Europeans are much more used to that. Even though they have a common currency now, they're used to that, where, it's because you have a lot of little small countries. So it's normal for somebody to live in a country, bank in a country, work in a country, and they can all be different countries, right? And so if somebody came to me from the Ukraine, I'd say, look, the first thing you need to do, and the more fear you have, the quicker you should be diversifying your wealth out of the Ukrainian currency. So buy euros, buy dollars, buy gold, buy Bitcoin, buy whatever, buy something other than the Ukrainian currency, because as you see now, the Ukrainian currency, it's losing massive amounts of its value. The central bank is limiting how much you can take out. They're limiting that whether you can take it out of the country or not. And if you do manage to get out of the country, nobody wants it, right?
Yeah.
If you live in Poland, you're not going to speculate and buy the Ukrainian currency and hope that, in a week or two, the war will be over and the currency will regain its value. No, usually what happens in these scenarios is the government changes, and one of the things that the new government will do is eliminate the old currency.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
if you manage to go out of Ukraine with a suitcase full of Ukrainian currency, you might be like somebody who did that in Iraq and has a suitcase of Iraqi dinar, or, Vietnam. If you were around, in South Vietnam, people took out suitcases full of currency only to find out they were worthless. So it's really important, and it's not something you want to do all at once. It's something you want to do sort of as part of your overall asset protection, investment, estate planning. Like, hey, every month, every quarter, whatever, I'm going to take 5% of my paycheck. I'm going to do this with it. I'm going to do that with it. I'm not telling you what the this or that is, because
Right.
for everybody it's different. But if I earn dollars, I'd want to get it out of dollars. If I earn Canadian dollars, I'd want to get it out of Canadian dollars.
Right.
I'm working on a project right now where, being in dollars has been good, because in the short run, the dollar has increased in value. It's still considered to be a world reserve currency. So people are now, the Europeans, for example, are fleeing the euro. And so the value of the euro has gone down about 10, 12% in the last little while. So same thing with Canadian dollar. Canadian dollar is down. A lot of the other world currencies are down vis-a-vis the dollar, because people are kind of panicking, kind of this knee-jerk reaction. But if I'm an American, I'm using the opportunity while my dollar is artificially strong to buy other currencies, right? When the dollar goes back down, then my euros or Canadian dollars will be reformed.
And so number one is diversify your currency, which I think is just great advice. And by the way, when I moved to Honduras years ago, I thought I'm going to run around with a whole bunch of dollar bills, and they're going to say, "Oh my God, can I have a dollar?" No, it was like, no, they have Lempira, and that's their money. And by the way, it fluctuated very little against the dollar, so there was no big. So I love it. Diversify the currency. Give us, in the time we have left, give us one or two other types of advice you give, because folks, double, toil and trouble. This is when you need it right now.
Yeah. I mean, if you can afford it, having a pad somewhere else, it doesn't have to be a fancy mansion. It could be a little apartment somewhere. If you, 10, 20 years ago, when Ukraine started moving more and more to the West, if you decided, hey, I'm gonna buy a little apartment in Paris or Berlin or Austria or whatever, just having, an escape hatch where you can go somewhere physically, I think that, that's right up there. If not one, it's a close number two after the, creating the bank account. Obviously, to do that, you have to have a little bit more resources. And I understand not all the viewers have those resources, but, if you can't afford it, kind of have it planned out in your mind. Where am I going to go? Who am I going to go to? Do I have a cousin? Do I have a nephew? That might impact the kind of currency I would like to accumulate. Because if I'm going to go to Sweden, then I better have some Swedish kroners when I get there. And, so that would be, right up there, number two. After that, maybe residency citizenship somewhere else, which frequently goes hand in hand with where you buy residency. I think if you do a couple of those little things, most people won't stop there. They'll keep going, after that, they'll be like, okay, now I want to make more investments. And over time, you'll see that by investing in it with a global viewpoint, usually you can have less volatility and you can have a better return. And that's, people, that's the offense side. And I don't really talk a lot about that, because there's people who specialize in money management and what have you. But, from my perspective, having that bigger view, that world view that takes into account diversification. If you talk to a typical asset manager in the States, they'll say, oh, well, you should have some stocks and bonds and mutual funds, maybe some real estate, but it's all in this big basket called the US. And to me, the basket isn't the US, the basket's the world. And, if you like Honduras, you focus on Honduras, but it doesn't matter what you like, you maybe just start setting up that plan B, look for places that you want to put a flag, spend a little time, maybe buy a property that, that if you're still working and you're planning for the future and you don't want to go to plan B, buy it in a place where, you can turn around and rent it and generate some money. Usually you can generate enough money to cover your mortgage. One of my clients was in the U.S. Foreign Service for, their whole career, and they never lived in Washington, D.C. They'd come in for a little short stint and turn around and leave. But early in their career, they bought a little small house, in a very good neighborhood near American University. And they kept it rented for 35 years. It was, it paid the mortgage. And when the couple retired, they had a beautiful little home, and it was their home that they had picked, 30 years earlier, and they basically got it for free. So, think that way. If you want to go to Nicaragua, or you want to go to Costa Rica, but you're going to be working for 10 more years, buy it now, and you're going to be in a better position to buy it because you have more earning power. Buy it with a good developer, somebody that can, make sure that after you buy it, that it'll be properly marketed, properly rented, and and then whenever you're ready to go there, it's paid for itself a lot.
Well, Joel, let me be very specific here, because I love what you're saying. You and Mike Cobb have, I know, 2 resorts, Grand Bayman in Belize and Grand Pacific in Nicaragua, where people can buy a home for just over $100,000 or so, and they can get they can get financing. Plus, exactly what you just said, there are actually rental programs to help with cash flow, folks. So you're, honest to God, you're covered all the way around, and they're prime residential resort communities. So I wanted to bring that home, because that is, I think it's great advice, and it covers that base. So folks are protected, they have a place to go to, and yet it can make money for them in the meantime. Grand Bayman is in Belize, right? grandbayman.com. I can never pronounce ambergris. I can never pronounce it. Well,
ambergris. It's
ambergris.
It's the blubber from a whale. That's what ambergris.
That's right. That's right.
And yeah, I mean, we're I'm not telling anybody that we're the only game in town. No, I mean, our products appeal to some people. The countries appeal. We have certain lifestyles. ECI Development is, positioning itself as a company that is creating, North American quality product throughout Central America. So, whether you want Highlands or Pacific or Gulf or Caribbean, we're trying to have that kind of choice available. But, asset protection is really about taking those steps, and where you take them honestly doesn't matter. If you like, some of those projects, great. But the concept is much more solid in that, for someone else, it might be Spain, it might be the Philippines. Everyone's different what their goals and objectives are. And, as an asset protection lawyer, I'm trying to encourage people to do both, to pursue their goals and their dreams, and do it in a way that is also giving them extra protection, maybe extra returns. So, that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about. Yeah. And I want to make it clear, I'm not telling people about Grand Bayman and Grand Pacifica so I can make money. I'm telling them so they can protect their money, which is really what the Global Wealth Fortress Report is all about. And it has never been more vital, Joel, in my opinion. It just hasn't.
Yeah. Well, and prices are going up in the Central American region because of commodities, cement, steel, those types of things, but they're still going up much more slowly than other parts of the world. I just spent a good bit of time in Miami at a conference and meeting with some clients, and it's astronomical. I mean, you walk in the grocery store, you can't believe it. A basic hotel room, a little box hotel room, out on Miami Beach is $600, $700, $800, and you're not getting anything nice for that. That's
nothing.
They kind of look at you like, oh, you're the poor guy with doing that. So the point is on that that's the other side of the coin, which is taking the money you have, stretching it and making it go further. In Central America, for example, organic produce is the norm. So, you don't have to go to whole paycheck to buy organic food. Everything is more or less organic, and it's going to be way cheaper than standard food in the US. So, the cost of labor, lower, cost of food, lower. Do you need, I just paid $1,000 gas bill in my house in Western Pennsylvania. I was even hardly there the month because, we had cold weather and have an old drafty house. And, you move to Belize, that doesn't exist. You don't have $1,000 gas bill.
Your heating bill is zero. Your heating bill is zero.
Exactly zero. And, lots of people
Yep.
can function without air conditioning too. I personally like to have a little AC, particularly when the humidity ticks up. But, the cost of the AC in a condo it's a fraction of what my heating bill is in my home. So the point I'm making is the costs are lower. You have a good, solid asset. You have a quality lifestyle. And again, you're kind of killing a few birds with one stone. You're protecting your wealth, providing, what I see, which is really nice, when we talk about generational wealth, people get older in life, they have more resources, they buy a nice place, and pretty soon their kids and their grandkids, are coming to visit them because, they can come and visit grandma and grandpa, and, it's a great, cheap vacation. And, everybody's happy with that.
Yeah. And, to be honest with you, the two homes I bought in Honduras, both for around 30,000, quite frankly, long after I am gone to meet my maker and have my mansion over the hilltop, my wife will be set for life as those in the next 20, 30 years. It's just a fact, that's good asset protection, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and what could you buy in, I know you're, in the eastern part of the country, what could you buy where you live for 30,000? I mean, you probably can't even buy a double wide trailer.
I don't think so. Joel, this has been great because you have given us a report from ground zero, and a very serious report for folks to make sure if they ever hit ground zero, they're protected, unlike some of the people, which unfortunately are saying. So thank you.
Thank you, Carter.
Thank
Good
you
to
so
talk.
much. Yeah, we appreciate it. There you have it, folks. You can't get more solid advice than that from someone who's right there and who is, as I tell you all the time, America's #1 asset protection attorney. So please take to heart what Joel said. He gave you 3 important steps you can take, added others in there. So now's the time to do it. Don't wait till it's too late. Don't, please. As I always tell you, let's do this thing.